dinosaurs might be long gone, but believe it or not, some of their ancient neighbors are still around, like the lake sturgeon. This fish has been swimming in our waters since before the T-Rex even roamed Earth, which officially makes it a living fossil. This is what you were talking about. So joining us to talk about the sturgeon is Kinn, senior aquarist at Shedd Aquarium. These prehistoric survivors, the challenges facing their home, and how visitors can get up close, personal, hands-on with this species. Good morning.
Hey, Evan.
Good morning, you guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you.
Gonna be hard to follow up UB40, but I'll try my best.
Hey, two things that have stood the test of time: UB40 and the lake sturgeon.
That's right. Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's talk about this. What is the kind of baseline knowledge about the lake sturgeon? We were talking about how big can they actually grow, and how old is this species?
So they are very old. Like you mentioned, they're a living fossil. So a living fossil is basically an animal that's been around since before the time of the dinosaurs, and we know that because of the fossil record. So basically, that's finding fossils of these animals and comparing them to how they exist in the world today. So, yep, that's one of our lake sturgeon that we have here at the aquarium in our amazing sturgeon touch habitat. So this is an opportunity for guests to really get up close and personal with an animal that is ancient.
That looks like a baby shark. Okay, so the lake sturgeon, do they hang out at the bottom of the lake always?
Generally, yeah, you'll typically find them at the bottom. So if you see those four whisker things kind of right in front of their head there, those are actually called barbels, and that's what they use to find their food. That's what they use to find their prey, and their prey is going to be, anything that they might be able to eat. So it could be small crustaceans or mollusks or even some smaller fish. So they will kind of cruise along the substrate at the bottom of the habitat looking for food using those barbels. So when you think of a sturgeon, they generally will live in kind of deeper, colder waters. So there might not be a ton of light available. So they don't exactly use their eyes too much for hunting. They're more relying on those four little barbel whiskers.
Wow, that's so fascinating. There have been some pretty large sturgeon found in the Great Lakes over the decades. Just how big can this species grow?
So the lake sturgeon is actually not one of the largest sturgeon species out there. The sturgeon that we have here are currently about 4 feet long, and I would say they probably weigh around 30 to 40 pounds. But they can definitely grow quite a bit bigger, get double that size, and weigh well over 100 pounds when they're fully grown. So still a pretty big size for a fish. And I think you asked earlier about how long they can live, and they can live for over 100 years.
What?
Which is pretty cool.
That is wild. Okay, so the lake sturgeon, you said it eats little crustaceans and it could eat other plant matter that's in the bottom of the lake. For people who are going swimming in Lake Michigan, if they're thinking, what's the biggest fish that could touch my foot? Is this the one?
Yeah, that'll definitely be the one. However, if you do end up finding a lake sturgeon while you're swimming, there's absolutely no need to, be afraid of them. You did say they kind of look like sharks, and that's actually one of the number one things that people say when they enter our Great Lakes gallery is they see our touch pool, the touch habitat that is right up in front. And I hear oftentimes kids yell, "I want to go touch the shark. I want to go touch the shark." And while they do look similar to sharks and have a similar body composition of sharks, in meaning that they don't have true bones, but they have a cartilaginous skeleton. So you can come up, touch them, and there's really nothing to be afraid of if you do end up swimming and find one out in the wild. They're not really pose any threat to people.
Good. You
mentioned the lifespan. They can live over 100. Didn't the Shedd have a really long-standing resident? Will you run us through that? Because if memory serves, did that fish pass?
Yes, so that I believe you are talking about one of our Australian lungfish. I believe his name was Grandad.
That's right.
He was well over 100 years old and had basically been at Shedd since Shedd's inception back in 1930. So it was incredible that we were able to have that animal for I think it was over 70 years. And then after that animal passed away of old age, its body went out to be studied. And when they came back to us, it was, well over 100 years old. It had been basically living through 3 different centuries, which is pretty crazy to think about when you think of a fish lifespan.
Unbelievable. How is the lake sturgeon population in Lake Michigan? How are we looking?
So Currently, lake sturgeon are an endangered species, so that is one thing, that we got to watch out for with these animals. There are a lot of regulations when it comes to people fishing for sturgeon, meaning that you can't catch them for certain times of the year, or if you do catch them, you have to release them because of their status of being endangered. And one of the biggest reasons for their status of being endangered is because if you've ever had caviar, that's where it comes from. So
What?
caviar is sturgeon eggs.
Oh,
Did not aware. I was not, for some reason I thought they came from a whale or something. I didn't
what?
even know. Or
Anthony?
a shark. Caviar
Yep.
is sturgeon
Oh.
eggs.
didn't know
Okay,
that
interesting.
either.
So how is the shed playing a role in maintaining this species or trying to help it bounce back?
Yeah, so we do definitely work with basically growing up sturgeon and making sure that they get to an appropriate size where they'll reach sexual maturity, where they will start producing eggs. And if we do have any eggs or anything like that, we'll try to hatch them out. We do work with different organizations around the state that we can work with, like basically rehabilitation or release programs, to help bolster numbers. So. There are definitely a lot of conservation efforts out in the world for the lake sturgeon because of their endangered species status. But, it's a tough animal to consistently reproduce because a female sturgeon will only lay eggs a couple of times in her whole 100 years. And sometimes reaching that age of sexual maturity could take, a couple of decades to even get to a point where she can start, producing eggs. So that was one of the big reasons, the population was decimated for the caviar industry, was because they take a long time to get to that stage. And, they produce eggs only a couple times in their life.
Wow. Wow. They are precious beings. Okay, Evan Kinn. Fascinating stuff. Can't wait to visit with my kids once again.
So fun. They
can
love to touch the fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
the back of them. So it's hard. It's like,
Yep.
I think you called it a cartilaginous.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Couldn't do the word.
The sturgeon.
Evan Kinn. Yeah, so cool.
So
You got to
cool.
visit. You got to
I
take
wanted
your kids when they're old
another
enough.
Yeah. Another question I was going to ask him if we had more time, which I'll have to Google it, is are there other fish that are also have been around for 200, what was it, 200 million years?
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Or is that the only one that we know of in the Great Lakes that is kind of before
Some
the
of those
dinosaurs?
shellfish, some of those crustaceans, I think, are pretty
Those
ancient as
too?
well. But yeah,
Very
that's
interesting.
a great Google errand in your future.
Hey, AI.